Greetings, seeker of the hidden currents. Allow your breath to soften, as though you were stepping through a half-lit corridor between worlds. Somewhere, in the hush between one heartbeat and the next, the architecture of your life is humming with codes you have never consciously deciphered. Tonight we walk that corridor together, not as tourists of mysticism, but as cartographers of the invisible. I will guide you through forgotten chambers where reality is forged, help you feel the texture of the forces that sculpt your days, and reveal how to retune the signal you have been sending into the cosmos since the hour you were born. Part 1. The whispering prison of a life repeating itself. Have you ever looked around your life and felt, without knowing exactly why, that something invisible was holding you in place? As if a transparent cage was surrounding your world, not made of bars or walls, but of patterns. You try to change. You read books, chant affirmations, attend spiritual retreats, work harder, pray louder, and for a few days, it even feels like something shifts. But then quietly, inevitably, it all falls back into the same familiar rhythm, like a song that always restarts at the chorus, no matter how far you think you've come. This is not failure. This is not your lack of effort. This is a message, a hidden one, sent not through words, but through the energy signature you are radiating into the field of life. Every one of us exists within a vibrational web. You might not see it. You might not even believe in it. But you feel it. You feel it when you enter a room and the air feels heavy, even though no one has spoken. You feel it when you meet someone who instantly makes you relax or tighten. You feel it when you smile and say you're fine, but something deep in your chest pulses in contradiction. That pulse, right there, is the truth of your vibration. And vibration is everything. What if I told you that no matter how many words you speak, no matter how perfectly you think your intentions are aligned, the universe is deaf to all of it, unless your frequency is telling the same story? There is a sacred law that the ancient initiates of Egypt, Babylon, Atlantis, and Tibet knew intimately. As the invisible vibrates, so the visible moves. In simpler terms, your life is not what you want. Your life is what you vibrate. And most people are vibrating on autopilot. Every thought repeated, every emotion suppressed, every belief left unexamined becomes a frequency loop. That loop becomes a field, and that field becomes your reality, not by punishment, but by perfect synchronization. So even if you desire love, but vibrate fear of abandonment, what you attract is another mirror of that fear. Even if you dream of wealth, but vibrate desperation or lack, you create scenarios that match that vibration. Not the dream, but the lack. That's why people stay stuck. Because their reality is not responding to their effort, but to their frequency. But here's the part you were never told. There are 3 ancient forces, older than religion, deeper than philosophy, that when activated together completely reset the field. They are not mantras, they are not morning routines, they are not visualizations of cars and bank accounts. They are pure, universal keys. They do not depend on belief, they only respond to activation. And if you found yourself reading these words right now, something within you, deep, sacred, unspoken, has already begun to remember. Part 2. The Great Illusion, Why Nothing Seems to Change. There is a cruel paradox that haunts the path of awakening. The more effort you make to change your life, the more elusive that change becomes. You read, meditate, visualize, journal, align your crystals, detox your body, light candles, chant ancient syllables, and yet the breakthrough doesn't come. Why? Because most of what the modern world calls spiritual practice is actually a performance for the mind. You believe that by thinking positively, repeating affirmations, or imagining success, the universe will reward your effort, like a grateful parent patting a child on the head. But the universe is not your parent. It is a field that doesn't understand words, a field that cannot be persuaded by intention unless intention is vibrationally aligned. You see, the cosmos doesn't respond to your desire, it responds to your state. You can scream, "I deserve abundance," until your throat is raw, but if the energy beneath your voice is fear, scarcity, and longing, what you are actually broadcasting is, "I do not have enough." And the field, ever faithful, will echo that message back to you, not as punishment, but as a mirror. This is why so many people feel betrayed by spiritual teachings. They followed the steps, they were positive, they did the inner work, but they missed the only step that matters: real vibrational coherence. Let me explain. Every thought emits a signal, but not all signals reach the field. Only those that are backed by emotional charge, by embodiment, penetrate the grid of reality. Words without felt resonance are static. Intentions without congruence are fog. The universe doesn't speak English, it doesn't speak Sanskrit, it speaks frequency. And you, whether you know it or not, are broadcasting right now. The secret is not to think new thoughts. The secret is to become the vibration of what you seek. Not want peace, be peace. Not beg for love, be love. Not chase abundance, embody abundance, even when your bank account mocks you. How? You must find the hidden source of contradiction. For example, you want to be free, but your frequency is still rooted in fear. You want a relationship, but you vibrate from loneliness. You want spiritual awakening, but you carry the vibration of performance, seeking to be spiritual, rather than to truly feel. When your desire comes from lack, the desire itself reinforces the lack. This is why the more you chase something, the more it runs. You're telling the field, I don't yet have this. The field listens, it obeys. So let's stop here just for a breath and ask honestly, what are you really vibrating? Not what you think you're vibrating. Not what your Instagram says you are. Not what you affirm in your morning routine. What's really humming beneath your skin? In the pause between your thoughts? In the silence when no one is watching? That is what is shaping your reality. Now take a breath, because here comes the turning point. There are three forces, ancient, cosmic, primordial, that when practiced together will align your inner vibration with the architecture of creation itself. They are not techniques, they are living intelligences. And when they are activated in harmony, the field listens. It reprograms, it responds. You are not here to manipulate the universe. You are here to tune yourself to its music, and once tuned, the dance begins. No resistance, no forcing, just flow. Let's enter the first force. Part 3, the first force, love, the forgotten frequency of origin. Most people think they understand love. They chase it. They write poetry about it. They cry over it, tattoo it into their skin, demand it in their prayers. But the truth is, what most call love is not love at all. It is need dressed in beauty. It is fear wrapped in sweet language. It is dependency, cleverly disguised as devotion. And this is why the first vibrational force, the most potent of all, is also the most misunderstood. Love. Not romantic love, not attachment, not infatuation, not the kind of love that says, I'll give you affection if you stay, or I'll be kind if you don't hurt me. That is not love. That is negotiation. That is a silent contract birthed in insecurity. True love is not a transaction. It is a state. It does not seek to receive, it seeks to radiate. It doesn't require recognition to exist. It is. Imagine standing in a desert under a midnight sky. There is no one around, no one to impress. The stars shine, the wind sings through your bones, and your chest swells, not because someone is giving you love, but because something ancient within you remembers how to become it. This love does not depend on external conditions. It does not fade when it is not returned. It is not directed. It simply flows, like breath, like sunlight, like a song too old to have an author. And when you vibrate at the frequency of true love, the field reorganizes itself. Why? Because this kind of love is not human. It is cosmic. It is the sustaining field beneath all forms. It is the vibrational grid that holds atoms together and separates light from shadow. The ancient masters called it the matrix of divine harmony. And they taught, when a human learns to resonate with that matrix, not just in thought, but in the body, in the breath, in every heartbeat, then the world bends. Synchronicities unfold, resistance melts, healing accelerates. This is why some people seem to carry a presence that shifts the entire room. When they enter, silence feels softer. When they speak, time slows. You think they are charismatic, but it is not charisma. It is field alignment. Their presence is vibrating with the matrix. Not because they're better, not because they studied longer, but because they stopped demanding love and started becoming it. This is not theory, it is frequency. Love is the tuning fork of creation, and most people misuse it by turning it into a transaction. I'll give you care if you give me attention. I'll open my heart if you promise to stay. I'll stay loyal if you make me feel safe. This is not love. It is a business deal carved in emotional language. It might feel intense, it might feel poetic, but vibrationally, it is a contract of lack. The moment you condition love, you shrink it. The moment you expect return, you cage it. And when you cage love, you reduce your field. You dim your light. You send mixed signals into the fabric of reality. The field doesn't respond to mixed signals. It responds to clarity. Unconditional love, the real one, is not about being passive. It is not about being naive. It is not about letting people harm you or accepting abuse. It is about choosing to vibrate love because that is what you are, not because someone deserves it. When love becomes your state of being, not your goal, not your mask, but your origin, everything begins to move differently. Your actions flow, your speech heals, your breath nourishes the air, even your silence becomes magnetic. You may ask, but how do I love like that if I've been hurt? And that question carries the answer. You can't love like that if you're still vibrating in the wound. That's why the second force is necessary, forgiveness. Not as a moral virtue, but as a vibrational cut. But before we go there, let me leave you with this. If your love still depends on how others treat you, then it is not yet your frequency. It is still your need. And until love becomes your home, not your craving, your field will remain unstable. Let that sink in. Because once love becomes your ground, the entire sky changes. Part 4, the second force, forgiveness as the blade of light that cuts time. If love is the current that harmonizes all things, then forgiveness is the blade that severs what no longer belongs in your field. Not just emotionally, not metaphorically, but vibrationally. It is the silent sword that cuts cords tied to timelines, traumas, and memories still dragging your energy backward. Most people misunderstand forgiveness. They think it's a moral gesture, a sign of maturity, a spiritual posture, something noble but optional. They associate it with being the better person. Or worse, they confuse it with denial, pretending not to hurt anymore, even while bleeding inside. But real forgiveness, the kind that reshapes your reality, is none of that. It is not about the other, it is about you, about your field, about the invisible threads of pain, blame, and regret that still vibrate through your subconscious like background music in a haunted theater. You may think the past is over, but if you still flinch when you hear that name, still feel your jaw tighten at the memory, still get a storm in your gut when you recall what they did, you are still vibrating in the wound, and the field is still broadcasting that vibration into the geometry of your life. This is not drama, it is physics. Every unresolved emotion becomes a tether, every old wound a transmitter, and as long as it's broadcasting, you are receiving. This is why cycles repeat. This is why people who leave toxic relationships often attract another version of the same story. This is why new jobs can feel like old prisons, because the energetic blueprint has not changed, and only forgiveness can dissolve it. Not forced forgiveness, not recited prayers you don't mean, but the deep, soul-level recognition that you no longer wish to feed that pain with your energy, that you are tired of letting old ghosts write new chapters in your life. Forgiveness, in its highest form, is not something you do, it's something you become. You become the frequency of release. You shift from "I let them go" to "I no longer carry them." And this shift, when felt in the body, not just thought in the mind, rewires timelines. You don't erase the past, you cut its power cord. The story remains, but the sting dissolves. The energy that was stuck begins to move. And as it moves, your field opens. Life begins to rearrange. Synchronicity accelerates. New paths emerge, not because you fought for them, but because you finally made space for them. Forgiveness is frequency hygiene. It is the act of clearing static from your channel so the universe can send you something different. And here's a secret. Not all the pain you carry is yours. Some of it is ancestral, inherited from parents, grandparents, entire lineages that held shame, grief, silence. You may carry guilt for things you never did. You may be haunted by stories that didn't even happen to you. But they vibrate within you because your DNA remembers. The field doesn't care where the pain comes from. It only responds to what is active. And if it's active, it's attracting, which is why you must forgive not just others, but also yourself. For the times you didn't know better. For the choices you made while in pain. For the masks you wore to survive. For not healing faster. For still feeling stuck. Your healing does not begin with perfection. It begins with permission to feel, to unravel, to release. And with that permission, forgiveness becomes a sacred fire. It does not burn to destroy, it burns to purify. It does not remove what happened, It transforms it. It transmutes venom into wisdom, pain into medicine, memory into light. And that light, the vibrational purity of a field no longer dragging chains, is what makes room for the third force to enter: gratitude. But before we cross that threshold, let me ask you, what are you still carrying that was never yours to hold? And what would happen if you let it go, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve freedom? Let that question echo through you. Then watch what changes. Part 5, the third force: gratitude as the womb of all miracles. Gratitude, a word so overused it's become ornamental. It hangs in home decor, it dances in instant captions, it's printed on coffee mugs and journal covers and spiritual memes. But let's strip it bare. Gratitude is not about saying thank you because you're supposed to. It's not a forced smile after disappointment. It's not a list of 10 things you pretend to love so that life will reward you with better. No, real gratitude is not about the future. It's not about transaction. It's not about getting more. It is about recognition. True gratitude is a state of vibrational clarity where you are so fully in the moment, so fully present with what is, that you can see the hidden perfection woven into even your most chaotic experiences. You shift from being a beggar of reality to a partner in its mystery. And when you recognize value, that value multiplies. Not because the universe is a bank, but because it is a mirror. When you see something as sacred, the field receives that signal and responds. You have noticed. You are ready. Here is more. This is the law of vibrational amplification. The energy you bless is the energy that blossoms. So let us reframe gratitude, not as a to-do list, but as a tuning fork. Gratitude is what tunes you to the rhythm of abundance. Not just financial wealth, but the deeper wealth of alignment. Right people, right timing, right guidance, right opportunity. Gratitude is the magnet that doesn't chase, it attracts by becoming. The modern mind, however, resists this. We are trained to focus on what's missing, on lack, on absence. We wake up thinking about problems, spend the day solving what we don't want, and fall asleep fearing what might go wrong. Our internal dialogue is a loop of dissatisfaction. In that loop, there is no space for real gratitude, because real gratitude only lives in recognition. It's the moment you look at a painful breakup and say, "That shaped me." It's the moment you feel awe at your own breath. It's the moment you realize that even your waiting has taught you something essential. Gratitude is not about romanticizing suffering. It's not spiritual denial. It's about reclaiming your power to name value in everything. And this act, when sincere, changes your frequency so profoundly that you begin to see different things. You walk into a room and notice beauty where you once saw blandness. You talk to someone and sense meaning where you once felt boredom. Life becomes textured, alive, generous. This is not placebo. It is perception, and perception is creation. People think manifestation is about manipulating the outer world, but manifestation is a mirror event. When your internal perception elevates, the outer world is compelled to reorganize itself to match it. That's why gratitude is not the icing, it's the bridge. It connects where you are to where you're going, not by carrying you forward, but by awakening you to the fact that you were already there, just blind to it. And when gratitude joins love and forgiveness in full coherence, the field ignites, not as a temporary high, not as a weekend workshop glow, but as a reality shift. Because now your field is unified, now your vibration is clear, now the geometry of your life has enough symmetry to attract the next level of design. And then something miraculous happens. Life begins to pour into you, not in excess, but in elegance. You stop chasing, you start receiving. You stop rehearsing, you start responding, and your presence, once fragmented by effort, becomes an instrument of harmony. Because gratitude is not a feeling, it is a frequency. And once stabilized, that frequency doesn't just shift your perception, it shifts your position in the multiverse. You begin to inhabit a parallel track of time, one where what you thought was impossible is not only probable, it's natural. Synchronicity becomes your native language. Miracles become math. And reality at last begins to make sense. But remember this, gratitude without love becomes performance. Gratitude without forgiveness becomes numbness. Gratitude without presence becomes pretense. So use it wisely, and never forget, you don't need more to be grateful. You need only the clarity to recognize what already is. Part 6, the sacred triad, the ego's collapse, and the realignment of reality. If you've made it this far, then you already understand. No single force, no matter how divine, can sustain transformation alone. Love without forgiveness becomes attachment. Forgiveness without gratitude becomes dry detachment. Gratitude without love becomes hollow performance. Each alone is powerful, yes, but alone, each is unstable. It is only when the three forces are activated together in vibrational coherence that the field begins to stabilize. Think of them as vertices in a sacred triangle. When one point collapses, the shape loses tension. But when all three are alive, radiating, resonating, supporting each other, they form an energy structure strong enough to hold a new reality. This is the ancient geometry of transformation. It is not metaphor, it is mechanics. Because once your inner field is coherent, it becomes magnetic. The chaotic frequencies around you, relationships, jobs, environments, are either drawn in if they match or repelled if they don't. And this is where the most disorienting part of your evolution begins. Not the awakening, not the alignment, but the purge. Suddenly, things fall apart. People leave. Opportunities vanish. Passions fade. And your mind screams, "What is happening? I thought I was healing. I thought I was ascending." But this collapse is not failure. It is physics. It is vibrational justice. The field is recalibrating, and anything not vibrating at the new frequency can no longer survive inside it. This is the holy fire of coherence. It doesn't discriminate, it purifies. You lose what you never truly aligned with. You shed what you no longer embody. You say goodbye to what can no longer grow in your soil. Yes, it hurts, but that pain is the ache of old skin peeling off, of cords being severed, of identities dying. This is not the end. This is the emptying. And then comes something even more terrifying, the ego's final rebellion. Because when coherence deepens, the ego senses extinction. It's losing control. And like a dying star, it flares up. It whispers fear. It triggers doubt. It seduces you with the familiar. Go back to the old job, it says. Text the ex. Stay small. Play safe. Don't lose everything you built. But you're not losing. You are realigning. And the ego cannot survive realignment. Because realignment requires surrender. Surrender to timing, to mystery, to not knowing. The ego is built on control, but awakening lives in trust. So yes, this is the hardest part, the part no one glamorizes, the part where you might feel crazy, alone, lost, floating between two worlds. But hear this, the field is not punishing you. It is finishing what you asked it to start. You asked for truth. You asked for wholeness. You asked for real love, real abundance, real freedom. Now you are being prepared to hold it. And to hold it, you must first become empty of what cannot carry that vibration. So grieve, breathe, witness, allow, but do not go back. You are not who you were before. You are the vessel of a new pattern. And once the purge is complete, once the ego exhausts its last defense, once the sacred triad is stabilized not just for a day but as a lifestyle, then something extraordinary begins to occur. Reality stops reacting, it starts responding. You wake up and life fits. People resonate. Events align, time feels orchestrated, the universe becomes conversational. Not because you forced it, but because you matched it. And from here, manifestation becomes a byproduct, a natural consequence of inner order. No longer something to chase or earn, but something that unfolds with grace, like breath. This is the return to divine rhythm. This is vibrational mastery. And it only begins when the three forces, love, forgiveness, and gratitude, are no longer things you practice, but things you are. Part 7, the return of inner sovereignty. You were never lost. At the edge of transformation, there is no trumpet, no fireworks, no chorus of angels. There is silence, not emptiness, not numbness, but a silence pregnant with power. It is the stillness that comes after the storm, not because the wind gave up, but because the sky changed shape. When the three forces, love, forgiveness, and gratitude, are no longer practices, but your resting vibration, you do not become a better person. You become a clearer signal. You no longer seek alignment. You are alignment. You no longer ask the universe for signs. You become the sign. You no longer chase the path. You are the path, walked by presence, guided by resonance, sustained by grace. This is not an ending. This is a return, a remembering. You did not come here to beg the universe for crumbs. You came to remember that you are the field, not a prisoner inside it. You came to remember that reality is not a script you follow. It is a song you co-compose. That your frequency is not a reaction to the world. It is the instruction code for how the world appears to you. And in this remembrance, something miraculous unfolds. You stop resisting what leaves. You stop fearing what hasn't arrived. You stop questioning your timing, because you now know life is not late. Life is not wrong. Life is not broken. Life is reflecting you. So the question no longer becomes, when will I receive what I want? The question becomes, how can I become what I'm meant to receive? This is sovereignty, not control, not dominance, but the unshakable presence of inner truth, a kind of quiet radiance that doesn't need to prove itself, a magnetic stillness that alters rooms, opens timelines, and whispers to the divine, I remember. And the divine, through signs, through dreams, through faces and pages and chance encounters, answers. So do we. So now breathe. Let the story settle. There is no need to rush out and apply a method. You do not need another technique. You need only to inhabit the frequency. Let love be the soil you walk on. Let forgiveness be the air you exhale. Let gratitude be the sky you live beneath. And as you walk the world as this living triangle of light, the universe will have no choice but to respond, because it always listens, not to your wants, not to your words, but to your wavelength. So now speak gently to yourself. Rest in the knowing that you are whole. And if you feel called, let this simple sentence anchor you to the field you've now awakened. I vibrate with the three forces. Say it not for magic, but for memory. Say it not to receive, but to remember who you already are. Welcome home, Sovereign One. You were never lost.